was beginning to scroll beneath the ship. Why Athens? Jason wondered, not for the first time. Why does Rutherford want me to report to him at his office there and not at service headquarters in Australia? Is it just another of his little ways of irritating me? Well, two can play at that game. "Thank the purser for me," he said. "And now I think I'll return to my stateroom. I believe I have time to change clothes before we land." "Most certainly, Commander." The steward's attitude was reflected in the stares from Jason's fellow passengers as he left the lounge. He'd grown used to that attitude and those stares, since the nature of his business on Earth had become general shipboard knowledge. Time travelers had that effect on people. "I assume you're trying to irritate me," said Kyle Rutherford coldly. "Whatever do you mean?" asked Jason with an air of innocence whose bogusness was insultingly obvious. Rutherford merely continued to glare from behind his desk, to the left of the door which had just slid silently shut behind Jason. Opposite the door, a virtual window provided a view of Athens from a higher level than the office in fact occupied. The location was about right, though. Peering over the Philippopos hill toward the Acropolis, serene in its ruined perfection. Timeless. Literally timeless, as well as figuratively so, in the temporal stasis bubble that enclosed it. The technology had come too late to protect it from the atmospheric pollution that had almost eaten it away in the hydrocarbon era. But now, with that gone, what was left stood in the unique, eerie clarity of motionless air, to be gazed at from without, rather than suffering the unintended vandalism of millions of tramping feet. Elsewhere, the office held memorabilia. To the right, the wall opposite Rutherford's desk was covered with photographs, at which a visitor from a couple of generations back would have peered in deepening puzzlement. Behind his desk, a display case contained various ordinary-seeming, if very old-fashioned objects, which Jason decided with an inner chuckle made it a fitting backdrop for Rutherford. "You know what I mean," Rutherford finally blurted. He nearly forgot to speak in the pedantic accent affected by Earth's intelligentsia when addressing Outworlders and other vulgarians. "Oh, this." Jason pretended to finally notice the target of Rutherford's glare. He glanced down at the uniform he was wearing, field gray with facings of silver-edged dark green, very much in a traditional quasi-military style. "I am entitled to wear it, you know, being an active-duty officer of the Hesperian Colonial Rangers." The irony was that he hadn't worn it he'd forgotten how long. The difficulty of getting the Rangers into uniforms was so proverbial that it had become a point of pride with them. They even added their own flamboyant individual touches to the starkly utilitarian and unmilitary-looking field versions. Only on very special occasions and under extreme duress could they be induced to put on the service dress kit in which Jason now stood, and on which he had lavished a hitherto well-concealed capacity for spit and polish. "I must beg to correct you," said Rutherford, in a voice as frosty as his thinning hair and neatly trimmed Van Dyke beard. "You're in the temporal service." "Not anymore." "I call your attention to the agreement by which you were permitted to take extremely early retirement from the service, specifically to Part 6, Article D, Paragraph 15, Subparagraph—" Yes, I know. The errand boy you sent to Hesperia explained it to me in great and loving detail. In fact, Jason had known about the deliberately inconspicuous clause all along. He had just never dreamed it would actually be invoked. Rutherford permitted himself a tight little smile of constipated triumph. "Well then, you understand that the Temporal Regulatory Authority has the right to reactivate you under certain special circumstances. Those circumstances have now arisen, and the right has been exercised. The Hesperian planetary government has placed you..."